Everybody, back for part three and talking about the solution. The solution is Pilate hears that they want him killed, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm not going to give them anything that they want if I can help them." And so, because he hates the Sanhedrin, he's not going to do this. So he decides, you know what? The next best thing is to scourge him, to whip him, right? Because that was a separate punishment, right? A separate punishment. So he takes Jesus and has the guards hold him, tie him to a pillar, and then whip him with this flagrum, which is a, a long pole with leather straps, 4 or 5 leather straps, and on those leather straps are attached pieces of bone and hooks and stuff like that, and they would whip into his back, legs, and buttocks, and these things would embed themselves into the skin and the flesh of the person, and they would then have to rip that back out, and it would tear, and it was a terrible, terrible punishment. And they would beat a prisoner to an inch of his life, and then they would let that prisoner go, and that prisoner then would take like a month to recover, if they did at all. They might die from infection or whatever, but they would be released. And this is what Pilate planned. And so when he beat him to an inch of his life, and you can think about, not only once the skin on your back, legs, and buttocks gets shredded, but you're talking about then the bone and the hooks like get into the actual muscle and start tearing away at that. So Jesus is bleeding profusely, and things are not going well for him. Again, think about this. This is like about 6 or 6:30 in the morning the next day. At this point, Jesus has been up 24 hours and getting beaten. He got punched in the Sanhedrin. I don't know if you've ever been in a fight or beaten up, but I mean, it takes its toll. And that's just the first part. The next part is him being flogged, and with the bone and the hooks tearing up his back and his legs. Um, he is weak, and beyond that, I mean, like I said, he's been up 24 hours. Have you ever been up 24 hours? Things get weird, right? So things are not. It's been a rough day for Jesus at this point. But things are obviously not over. Um, so we also see that. So when he gets brought back to Sanhedrin's like, yeah, no, we're not done with this guy. We want him murdered. We want him crucified. So then Pilate, looking for a way to not get the Sanhedrin what they want, remembers that there is a rule that um, he gets to release one prisoner of the people's choosing. So he brings Jesus, and then he brings a man named Barabbas, who was a murderer, and everybody hated him. And he brought him out in front of the people, and you see this scene in many movies about how, he says, who would you like me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, right? Now, interestingly enough, the name Barabbas, means son of the Father. So really cool irony here. You have Jesus, the son of the Father, over here, and over here you have Barabbas, the son of the Father. That's really neat. Um, but anyway, if you watch any of the movies, you see like thousands of people out there saying, give us Barabbas, crucify Jesus, and we start to scratch our heads and be like, wait a second, Palm Sunday, Jesus walks into Jerusalem, and everybody's like, Hosanna in the highest, son of David, laying their coats on the ground for his donkey to walk over them, palm branches waving. And then you have Tuesday or Wednesday when Jesus is the advocate for the people in the temple, and he's saying and doing things to hold the Sanhedrin accountable that they've all wanted to hold him accountable. They've been listening to him preach in the temple all all week. So why are they now shouting for his death? Like, what is the deal there? And the answer, very plainly, is that um, those people are not there. All the people that really liked him and were waving, to him on Sunday and excited about him on Tuesday or Wednesday and listened to him preach on the days during the week in the temple, they were not there. Think about it. If you were had Thanksgiving dinner the night before, 8:30 with 4 glasses of wine. Are you up at 7 a.m. the next day? I know I'm not. So they were not there. So who was there? Right? And if we think about it, who is going to be out at 7 a.m. that next morning? And it's going to be your homeless, it's going to be your drunks, and it's going to be your prostitutes. These are just the few people that are on the streets. And the Sanhedrin is able to bribe them a little bit, and then they're the ones shouting. So you're not talking thousands of people saying crucify him about Jesus. You're talking maybe about 30 or 40 people, right? And that's crazy. That blows our minds. But obviously, if you're making a movie on it, that's not going to really get it done. So you're going to need something more than 30 people. So, thanks Hollywood for kind of ruining the historicity of that. So Jesus is now sentenced to crucifixion, and Barabbas is released apparently. So Jesus walks the Via Dolorosa. He walks this long path through the streets of Jerusalem with this cross. Now, again, to carry something heavy like that probably was just a crossbeam. Um, but the issue is, guys, that he's in no shape to carry this cross. Remember, when somebody is crucified, it's a separate punishment than the scourging, and so the other people who would be crucified were not scourged. So Jesus is this unique case, and so there's no way without the control of your legs and your buttocks and your back muscles. There's no way that you're going to really be able to um, control and carry something heavy like that. So, the Gospels tell us about a man who helped carry him, Simon of Cyrene. You also see the Gospels tell us about Jesus falling several times. Um, and as he makes it to his, um, as he makes it to um, the Golgotha, the place, the hill where he's going to be crucified, he gets nailed to the cross. Now, again, this is really interesting that when you are crucified, you're crucified not through the hand because the nail would pull right through. It doesn't support the weight of the body, but it has to be nailed through the mesicarpal region of the wrist, where that would be able to sustain the weight of the hand and the whole body. So, and when you press on this mesicarpal region, you hit the medial nerve, so it would have caused a great deal of pain to the person. And now, another thing about crucifixion, it was not meant to kill the person, it was meant to put them up there and let them suffer. It was torture, right? You didn't want the person to die or bleed out. You wanted them to be stuck up there for as long as possible. So you would put the nails in there to cause that kind of excruciating pain. The word excruciating actually comes from the term ex cruciae, from the cross. And when you've got the cross and they're hanging up there. Now, when they're hanging on the cross, it pulls on the diaphragm, and the diaphragm um, doesn't allow you to breathe. So you have to pull up on the cross to breathe, but that's pulling up on the nails, and that's terrible. And so the person has to fight between whether or not he wants to cause the pain in his hands or breathe, and that's a tricky situation. And so Jesus dies within 3 hours when normally it takes hours and hours, maybe even days, where people are on the cross for days. But Jesus dies within 3 hours, and it's the terrible situation of Jesus' death. So he's he's been awake for 33 hours before his death, and that is insane. And so that's a really long day, and that tells a little bit about the story of Jesus's death. And I hope you learned a little something. Tell me a little bit about what you thought was interesting or something you didn't know. All right, peace, and have a happy Holy Week.